Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome everyone, dear devotees, and anyone else who is listening now and future for the Wednesday program at ISKCON of Silicon Valley. We'll start today with small Magdachan prayers. We'll talk about Lord Shiva today. Okay, Babu. Thank you. Right, dear devotees. So please, thank you for joining. Thank you, Sunil Prabhu, as well. Will please take your Guru Pranam mantra in your mind. If you're under the shelter of a Guru or if you're already initiated, and then follow that by Srila Prabhupada mantra. नमां विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. I offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual master, who has opened my eyes, which were blinded by the darkness of ignorance, with the torchlight of knowledge. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. When will Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who is established within this material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet? Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadhavaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master and of all the other preceptors on the path of devotional service. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnavas and to the 6 Goswamis, including Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Sanatana Goswami, Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, Srila Jiva Goswami, and their associates. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Advaita Acharya Prabhu, Sri Nityananda Prabhu, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and all his devotees headed by Srivas Thakur. I then offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, Srimati Radharani, and all the gopis headed by Lalita and Vishaka. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute. O my dear Krishna, ocean of mercy, you are the friend of the distressed and the source of creation. You are the master of the cowherd men and the lover of the gopis, especially Radharani. I offer my respectful obeisance unto you. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. I offer my respects to Radharani, whose body complexion is like molten gold and who is the queen of Vrindavana. You are the daughter of King Vrishabhanu and you are very dear to Lord Krishna. Vancha kalpatarubhascha kripa siddhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They are just like desired trees who can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen, conditioned souls. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakti Vrinda. I offer my obeisances to Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Nityananda, Shri Advaita, Gadadhara, Shri Vasa, and all the others in the line of devotion. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you, Prabhu. So, Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Today we will talk a little bit about Lord Shiva. But this is not like a lecture per se where it's like one way delivery of information or a word flow and everyone was trying to absorb. Firstly, I'm not that level. But more important than that is, or not really more important, but another aspect is that a dialogue is what is expected in this get together today. So, without much ado, let me share. Okay. So before talking about Lord Shiva, let's understand where does Lord Shiva fit with Lord Krishna, because we are all after Krishna consciousness, and so we'll take one of the very famous verses, the Chaturshloki Bhagavad Gita. Am sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhav samanvita. So Krishna says in the 10th chapter, I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship with all their hearts. So dear devotees, please note this point. Everything emanates from Krishna. If everything emanates from Krishna and Shiva is an entity, then does Shiva also emanate from Krishna? Well, we don't know if that is conclusive here or not, but one thing is for sure. Shiva doesn't exist outside the domain of Krishna. So, let's look at another Bhagavad Gita verse. And this is chapter 11, 15th verse. Arjuna Vacha. Yep. So, Pashyami devam tav devadehe sarvam tatha bhut vishesha sanghan brahmanam isham kamlasan stham rishim cha sarvan urgam cha divyan. So what is Isham? It is translated. Brahmanam is Lord Brahma, as Srila Prabhupada is telling, and Isham is Lord Shiva. And Arjuna is seeing in the Virat Roop of Krishna, I see Brahma sitting on the lotus flower, as well as Lord Shiva and all the sage and divine serpents. So we narrow down from saying that is Shiva definitely not existing outside the domain of Krishna to saying Shiva also exists as part of the Virat Roop of Krishna. Let's take another verse from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 11, 22nd verse. Rudraditya vasavo ye cha sadhya vikshante, last line, vikshante tvam vismitas chaiva sarve. So many Rudra, manifestations of Lord Shiva, and then others, Aditya, Vasava, Vasus, Sadhya. So the translation is all the various manifestations of Lord Shiva, etc., and the perfect demigods are beholding you in wonder. So not only is Shiva a part of Virat Roop, which is or at least he constitutes in one manifestation the one part of the Virat Rupa, but he's also beholding in wonder. Why would someone behold someone else in wonder? For one very obvious reason, they are not the same entity. Okay, So that is one conclusion that we can draw so far from the 3 verses that we have said. In addition, when someone is wondrous about another entity, that shows that the second entity, the one that is being admired or looked upon as, has some attributes which are definitely either sought after or being idolized or being something that is missing in the previous entity. So Lord Shiva is definitely beholding Krishna in wonder. Even the Virat Rupa, that means the Virat Rupa at least holds something wondrous that Shiva either doesn't have or would aspire to have, or at least is just enjoying, maybe. Let's put it like this. So, one more verse from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, 23rd verse. Rudranam Shankaraschasmi Vittesho Yaksharakshasam Vasunam Pavakaschasmi Meru Shikharinamaham. Translation: of all the Rudras, I am Lord Shiva, and Rakshasa, I am Lord Kuvera, and Vasus, I am Fire, Agni, Mountain, and Meru. So please, dear devotees, note this part. Of all the Rudras, I am Shiva. So far, we got the part that what is Shiva's position in conjunction with Krishna, and we narrowed it down. But now we get one more angle. There is something called, or rather some entity called Rudras, and then he's saying he's Lord Shiva. So why is Krishna saying he's just Shiva out of Rudras? Are Rudras and Shiva not same? Are they different? And what is the relationship between them? So that's another angle that comes out. So I'm going to do something a little adventurous over here. Basically, there are 11 Rudras, and according to Shiv Puran, and this is coming from Google obviously, but it's not in Bhagavatam, but point is that there are 11 Rudras. And why are they called Rudras? They call Rudra because after they were born, they were howling or crying. So there's a separate story for that. But coming back here, out of these 11 Rudras, there's one whose name is Shambhu, brings peace and divine bliss. Whereas if you look at the other ones, Kapali, the ones who hold skulls as part of his necklace, Asura destruction, rebirth, and Pingal and Bhim and Virupaksh, Vilohita, Shastra, Ajapada, Ahir, Budhya, Chanda, Bhava. So they all have different things. Some protects from negative influences, some teaches control anger, destruction. A lot of them are non-negative in their manifestation, how they are helping. But Shambhu brings peace and divine bliss. So that's definitely a very positive aspect of all the Rudras. So you can see that it is not non-negative, it's a positive aspect. And perhaps that's the reason why Krishna says, of all the Rudras, I am Lord Shiva. Okay. Well, anyway, since we are talking about Rudra, so apparently when Lord Brahma was creating the various entities to spread life over this material world, the one that we live in, at that point of time, out of his various experiments and attempts, one of them was Rudra, and it is said that Rudra were actually not only howling, crying, they either rushed to kind of eat him, or he went. No, that was for Rakshasas. But yeah, so Rudras were basically crying. That's why the Rudra or part is where they're howling or crying. That's where the name comes from. Okay. So now these are the 11 Rudras on material world. Now how does the material world look in conjunction with the overall spatial context? So if this is one egg, let's say this is a crate of eggs, and if there were many eggs that were housed over here, then if each of these eggs were actually each of them is a material world, and they are called a golden egg or Hiranyagarbha. So I'm just putting H over here, and they are golden in color. Then inside each one of them, it is complete Purnam creation, and this is the creation that is run by 3 Ishwaras, Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh or Shiva. So this Shiva is the one that we're talking about over here so far, and within each of these material eggs or Hiranyagarbha, we will get one Virat Rupa that basically envelopes or rather spreads throughout this egg over here. And this is just the material world with infinite eggs. So each of them are like small particles that are bobbing up and down in the Karana ocean or the causal ocean. And just to give some context, why is causal ocean called causal ocean? Causal ocean is called causal ocean because it basically represents the material side of things. There is a spiritual side of things, and this material side of things has one basic understanding. It is either dormant or it is active. When it is active and when it is dormant, the basic identification for them is Sat Asat or cause and effect. Okay, before even going over here, let's just go down to even more basic aspect. Overall, if you divide this entire, not srishti is not the right word, creation, the entire existence, then there are two basic aspects of looking at things. One is tattva and one is rasa. Tattva is what is the constituents, or what are the elements that go up and make up things. And rasa is where there is interplay between them. And it is rasa which actually gives us the ananda. So, and tattva is just existence. So both are needed to combinedly give the pastimes as it happens, whether in the material world or spiritual world, whether karmis are doing it in this world or outside. So why this, we talked about this, we go back to our material world diagram over here. The cause and effect is where are the basic aspect about how the tattva and the rasa are happening in the material world. In the spiritual world, it is causeless. So if you understand this basic difference between causeless and cause, then we'll understand that in the causal ocean is where all of these eggs are bouncing or bobbing up and down, and they are all providing activity or rasa or material life, material pastimes for various jivas inside each of these eggs, and with a cause and effect. Okay, so we talked a lot about philosophy over here. Let's come back on how Shiva fits into this picture. So one thing is that everything is coming as chapter 11, right? Yeah, so everything is coming from the spiritual world. So spiritual world is where things exist as permanent, as sat or eternal. And when they come down to the material world, it's a perverted reflection. So in the perverted reflection, because this cause and effect happen, therefore we need an orchestrator of things that is asat as well as sat. When we say sat, over here, sat is not just denoting eternity, it is also denoting something that is absolute truth. And how can you have an entity which is both sat and asat? That entity's requirement is what Lord Shiva is fitting in. It's not that Lord Shiva is asat. It's just that he plays the role of handling an aspect about material world that is most asat. So in terms of gunas or modes, everything in the spiritual world is Shuddha Sattva. That means it is absolute truth. Whereas in the case of material world, another dimension for all of these things is to break it into three parts. The three gunas, which is Tamo Guna, Rajo Guna and Sattva Guna. So what's the basic difference between Sattva Guna over here and Shuddha Sattva over here in the spiritual world? They are both Sattva, but the difference is this Sattva in the material world has a tendency to actually allow Rajoguna to dominate it or Tamoguna to dominate it at certain points of time. Whereas Shuddha Sattva, so let's call it SS, doesn't allow that. There is no scope for it allowing something else to dominate. So Shiva is actually helping play the role where he is, even though he is a personality of God, is actually help orchestrate the various rasas inside the material world. And for that, Shiva is able to, despite the fact that Shiva is Sat, he is able to play the Ras Leela with Asat. This is something that I wouldn't say is not possible, but it's something that is not done by all other personalities of God. So this is, Shiva is basically playing the role of the entity that is Sat, allowing to play with Asat. Okay, so I'll rub this off. Rather, I would not rub it off. I'll stop here and just ask if anyone has any questions about this, because I talked a lot about various concepts. Please unmute and speak or ask or
I
share
request
your
the
thoughts.
devotees, if you have any question, you can always unmute and ask.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, can you
Yes.
one more time explain how exactly is this different with Sattva and Shuddha Sattva? You mentioned that there is no interference of the Tamoguna or Rajagun, right?
Yes.
So, how do you one get rid of that in the other side of the material world?
Oh, actually, you don't get rid of it from the other side material. That is the reality. It's like saying, how do you convert dollar to some artist painting? The answer is you not start from the painting to get dollars. Dollar is already existing because that's the currency. That's how the life really exists. At least from how we see things, right? Similarly, in the spiritual side of things, things actually exist. There is a personality of God. There's not one, I mean many, and there are liberated nitya muktas, jivas who are already there with them. There is also the various paraphernalia. For example, the dham is there, all the lokas, the spiritual planets are there, the spiritual sun, the spiritual moon, all of these things actually exist, and they exist permanently. That is Shuddha Sattva. So that always exists. It is only out of the various entities, I mean, if I divide that everything totally, so there are six types of entities. Let's put it like this. Huh? There is Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is his expansion, we call him Balaram, but basically an expansion of the absolute truth, personality, Supreme Personality of Godhead's expansion. There is an incarnation that is there. We normally, Mahavishnu, Sadashiva, they will be serving that position. So they are all Vishnu Tattvas. And then there is energies of the Lord with which they play, interplay, and then that's where the rasa will happen. For example, Krishna will have his Rasa Leela with Radharani and Gopis, right? So there's internal energy of Krishna, and that is served by Radharani. Then there is jivas. So, and Radharani will have various manifestations like Lakshmi, who will interact with Balaram and Mahavishnu and things like that, right? Similarly, if it's Sadashiva, Parvati will come into picture, but they're all manifestations that's coming down from Radharani. So this is the internal potency. So these are Vishnu Tattvas. This is the internal potency. Then there's an external potency, and we call it Durga. So Parvati really is that, and that is where the Sat Asat part comes into picture. Where Shiva is able to play with Durga and play with matter. And between the two, there is marginal energy, which is us jivas. Okay, so energy wise, there are only three types of entities: one internal potency, one external potency, I'm putting a cross because Krishna is not interacting, or at least not openly, and there's jivas who are marginal. Marginal means that they can go both sides. They can actually interact with the personality of Godhead using the facility provided by internal potency of the Lord, or they can interact with matter using the facility provided by external energy of the Lord. Okay, so now coming back over here, when we say something is Shuddha Sattva, that means the ras or the tattva as well as the rasa, both of them will never move away from Krishna. Only the jiva can move away from Krishna, from the what is absolute truth. So other than the jivas who are already there, let's say in the spiritual part somewhere, nothing else, none of the Balaram or Sadashiva or Krishna or Radharani are ever missing out their position of reality that exists in the spiritual world. That is what they call Shuddha Sattva, means they always are static, sthita, in terms of their position of or the understanding and how they are always into truth or reality. The jiva, because it can jump both in the spiritual aspect of things as well as matter, allows to play when they interact with all of these entities, spiritual entities, then their interaction is also Shuddha Sattva. When they are interacting with matter, their interaction is also Sattva to begin with. But because the jiva is powerless, and all of these entities, they are infinite, they are all very, very powerful, they are vibhu, They are very powerful. Vibhu means large, big, and Jiva is Anu, small, 1/10,000, the tip of a hair. That's what Veda say. Because it is not capable of doing much. Till things are going good, everything is good. Because you're interacting with infinity, so your infinity plus 1, this little Jiva, is also infinity, Shuddha Sattva. The moment Jiva, because it is allowed to actually work or live or be aware of something which is matter, therefore when it is interacting with matter, even though it tries its best, the best that can happen is only sattva. That means its state can go further away from even from existence to being into mode of passion, which is getting into hectic activity with matter, or even worse than that, which is tamoguna. So this is rajoguna, right? And this is tamoguna. In the tamoguna, basically the jiva can be in a hopeless situation, or lazy, or like that kind of situation where there is not much hope, there is no brightness. Whereas when it is in sattvic state, things are very bright. I mean, you see scholarly people, or people coming out with really wonderful or benevolent ideas. A very characteristic of sattva in the material world is selflessness, right? In the case of rajoguna, it is not selfless, it is selfish, or self-centered at the very least. So both types of self-oriented activities are rajasic in nature, and the jiva can actually move from this to this to this, because all of these gunas are having intense competition of how they will dominate and get the activities of jiva manifesting. That's the way the nature of material world. So because sattva in the material world can easily worsen or fall down or degrade itself to rajas, and from there also to tamas, therefore everything that the best you can achieve in matter or material side of things is only sattva, whereas everything inside the spiritual world is shuddha sattva. And sorry, long answer, but if you want a short, if you just sum it up, because in the interaction one side is infinite, therefore things are permanent in nature. Whereas the moment jiva leaves Lord and starts interacting with matter, even though matter itself is infinite too, but matter is weaker energy than jiva. So therefore this 1 plus negative infinity, that's how we should put as matter, 1 plus negative infinity makes things only negative, it cannot be positive. Whereas 1 plus 1 means small jiva, if you add to positive infinity, things will always be towards a great number, great positivity. So that the magnanimity of all of these Vishnu tattvas makes things Shuddha Sattva in the spiritual world. The inertness of matter and possibilities of leading a self-centered life in the material world makes things just Sattva or Rajas or Tamas. Does that kind of answer your question, Prabhu, or are you still confused? I
No,
don't
yes,
know.
Prabhuji. Dhanyavad, Prabhuji. Yeah, I mean, it's associated with the jiva on this side of material side, which you explained, and then the external potency, the energy, still there. Yeah. So it is all with the jiva, and
Yeah, the jiva is the crucial thing over here, right? Yeah, and that's why
absolutely.
there's a concept of free will, right? I mean, otherwise, Krishna being infinite cannot force this little one to say, "Hey, dude, go and align with me," or "Sir, please align with me." Nothing like that. It cannot force it. It cannot. It can give a small tap in the head, like any of these Vishnu Tattvas. Sometimes, occasionally, once in 50 years, once in 10 years, saying, "Do you, poor guy, what are you doing? Why are you suffering in this material world?" But most of the times in the material world, things are autonomous. The jiva is God in itself. It's a small God, puny God, Anu, not Vibhu, not big. That is the whole concept. Okay, so thank you. Let's move on. So basically, we derive the fact that we need an entity that is allowing spiritual world's perverted reflection into matter or material side, which allows Sat to play with Asat. Because without that, matter on its own cannot provide any activity, no rasa in material world, and on its own no Shuddha Sattva would ever want to come and do anything in the matter, and none of the Vishnu Tattvas will do that. I mean, they'll come here on a surgical mission, like which is called incarnation, came here like a commando, killed Narsimha Dev, came, wiped out Hiranyakashipu, took up some prayers and then went back, right? Or Lord Ram come 13,000 years, but that's a small time compared to how long material world exists, right? So really Shuddha Sattva doesn't really come here and thrive here, let's say, or is prominent in the material world, right? So Shiva is playing that role. It's a very crucial role. Okay, despite the fact personality of Godhead, it can also interact with Asata. All right, and so just something to note while we're talking about this, even demigods, forget Lord Shiva, when they come and visit and they are present right on earth and they're visiting someone, Agnidev is coming or someone, there's one story, I forgot who it was, some princess was supposed to marry and she was very beautiful, and Prabhu, let me know, Ashram Madhapur, if you know who that was. And then what happens is, I think Nal Damayanti maybe, but anyway, where it was. So because this swamvar going on, and all the demigods, because they can change their personality, so they change to represent Nala, I think. And then because of that, when the princess is coming out, she's not able to recognize who is the one that she really wants to marry, because they're all looking same. But because the demigods will not touch earth, even demigods don't touch, they are about 2 inches above. Of course, Vishnu Tattvas are above 2. So therefore, she is able to identify all the other demigods because they're not touching earth. That means they are all demigods, they cannot be the real one. So she tells them openly that, hey, please reveal yourself. And then they reveal themselves as something. And then she was able to go and garland the actual human being who she really wanted to marry. But I told you this story because if demigods are themselves keeping themselves aloof from this kind of matter on earth, imagine what is the position of the personalities of Godhead, right? Not that they don't have compassion, it's just that by definition, the place where we live is darkness, and what represents the Shuddha is brightness. How can bulbs light coexist with shadow? You cannot coexist, right? Either there will be light or there will be shadow. The definition of shadow is where there is no light. So how can you violate the definition, right? But Lord Shiva is able to bridge that gap. So it's a very, very important position. Okay, so since we talked about that, let us please go into. So let me take away these Bhagavad Gita verses, and now we'll talk about. So Lord Shiva is also called Shambhu. We saw that in Rudra, right? One of the 11 Rudras. So a Rudra word in Sanskrit means a parent or progenitor. Okay, and Bhu is coming from to be. Okay, so basically he acts as a parent. And how does he act as a parent? We'll get to that. But let's continue. So out of the 3 entities that actually run each of these eggs, Hiranyagarbha in the material world, material egg, out of the 3, there is a personality of Godhead Vishnu Tattva account, which is Shriyudakasya Vishnu, so Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh. So Brahma is one of the entities, very elevated, one of the jivas, he gets that position. And Shiva is playing that role. But this Shiva is a tattva. That means each Shiva is existing in each of these material eggs, as well as Shiva is also existing in the spiritual world. The Shiva that exists in the spiritual world is a 5-headed Shiva called Sadashiva. And therefore there's a place over there where people who are aligned towards Shiva can go and get liberated and stay with him, and it's called Sadashiva Lok. I guess that is something that is known. So out of the 3 entities here, each of the modes is one is in charge of, and Vishnu is in charge of Sattva, and Brahmajis are in charge of Rajas. Rajas is about creativity, and anyways creating all the mankind life over here, and all the animals too. And Shiva is playing the role of managing the Tamaguna over here. Okay. Now, so quick Brahma Samhita verse that says, just as milk is transformed into curd by the action of acids, yet the effect of curd is neither same or different, so I adore the primary Lord Govinda Krishna, of whom the state of Shambhu is a transformation for the performance of work of destruction. So basically Shambhu or Shiva's role in each of these material eggs is to destroy things. Okay, now we don't have time to go through all of these things, so let's continue. Right. Another thing is, from Brahma Samhita we get that Shiva is the progenitor of the mundane world. And what does progenitor mean? A person or thing from which a plant is descended originates. So originator, an ancestor or parent. Okay, so that is the position. So how does this really happen? What happens is that initially, or as I told, right, in the material existence, there's always 2 states. One in which things are going into icebox, and then one in which they are active. The way it works is Mahavishnu is lying down on causal ocean, and he breathes in and breathes out, and from the pores of his skin, like you get sweat, all of these big universes are coming out, each of these eggs are coming out. So over there, now, so Matter is coming out, no problem. Matter is there, Mahavishnu's body, matter comes out and keeps going in. But how does that was the tattva part, where the rasa part comes into picture. The jivas have to be there, and how will the jivas become active? So it is said that Lord Vishnu glances, and when it glances, then the jivas get impregnated into Maya. This one we know. But how does it really happen? Lord Shiva has a very important role to play, and that is this verse talking about how does it actually happen. So it says basically, I mean, let's take more time, but ultimately Maya is the material energy, right? And she needs to get impregnated with all the jivas, and this impregnation will happen. So where the jivas now, they are in the body of Mahavishnu, and from there they have to travel over to Maya. And who is going to take them there? Lord Vishnu is just going to glance. He's not going to go and interact with material energy, right? So how does it work out? Basically, Rama Devi, or for lack of a better word, Lakshmi ji, is helping take those jivas, pass it to Shambhu, Lord Shiva, and then Lord Shiva is the one who is doing the job of impregnating material energy. And this, the glance is basically encapsulating all of that small sub-item or sub-activities. So from Vishnu's glance all the way to Maya getting impregnated with jivas. And once it's get impregnated, so then I think we have to look at something else. The role of Shiva is like the male generating organ, and Maya, is female consort, is the efficient causal principle. So it's like very much like the union of a man and woman that we know of, but it is the other way around. It is actually because of this that the man and woman union happens, or any male or female gender union happens for any species. But this is the original union, and from this union, the first thing that gets created is Linga Sharira. So now we go into some more technicalities. What is the Linga Sharira? What is the Linga body? Sharira is body. So what does it contain? So the way it works is, Jiva soul is very small. Okay. And we see a goat. Let me try to draw a goat. Right. And then, sorry, my handwriting, my drawing plus laptop. Okay. So between the soul, which is obviously at the heart, not at his tummy, but let's say somewhere over here, and the body over here, there are many things that are also present. I mean, we know it, some of them. I mean, inside our body there is veins and muscles and all those things, right? But really, from a philosophical Vedic perspective, how does it happen? The way it works is, this soul has a covering called causal body, or this is the Linga Sharira. So this is what is being created by Shiva and Shakti's union. This covering is called false ego. So we know ego means I exist, right? I mean, that's what ego means, that I'm present. False ego is where Jiva, the small little soul, because of this body, thinks it is present without a relationship with Shuddha Sattva, without relationship with God, let's put it like this, without relationship with any of the Vishnu Tattvas or Krishna. Okay, so this is the basic building block for anything in matter. Then beyond this, there are certain other layers that come into picture, and then ultimately all of those things, you can call it as subtle body. The subtle body consists of, is also called Antakarana, consists of many other things. Of course, it consists of this Linga Sharira or causal body, but addition to that, mind, intelligence, like those kind of things, right? So they are there, prana, right? So all of these things are the subtle body, and this is what really carries on life over life. When we say karma is carried by Jiva or the soul, it really is the soul which is carrying this. This layer, subtle body layer, is what is carrying all the karma, right? And then there's the gross body. So this goat's body is the gross body, which is a layer on top. So there are three concentric circles at the very least. Soul, and on top of it the false ego, the subtle body, and the gross body. Now when we have Shiva consorting with Maya Devi, it creates this initial false ego part, right? That's why Shiva is called the deity, or the predominating deity for false ego. And after that, mind, intelligence, all the other further deities will come out. For example, through this chain of creation, one of demigods, moon god, will come out, and moon god is the god predominating deity for mind. Like that, For the intelligence, I think it is Brahma, but I'm forgetting. Like that, there are different predominating deities for each of these various components that go on to create a material body, and this material body will keep shrinking or becoming bigger depending on the phase of time, right? So when they go back into Mahavishnu's body, everything will be stripped apart and only the jiva will be there, and it will be put into an ice box. It's like deep sleep, but this deep sleep is of ignorance. It is not a deep sleep of awareness, yogic awareness, right? Whereas the one that yogis try to do is the one where they get rid of this with awareness, and therefore their stripping all layers is actually good, whereas a normal jiva's stripping of these layers through annihilation, which is where Shiva really helps in destruction. We read that, right? Previous verse. That is in ignorance. Okay, so that is why Shiva's role is very, very important to allow tama or ignorance based stripping of things, coming back, all the activities, all the rasas, basically creation, how the starting point, the genesis of creation. I don't know if that is a good phrase to say. Creation itself means starting, and then genesis itself also means something starting from scratch. So this origination of creation is done by Shiva. Okay, so a lot of philosophy over there. Let's go on to look at some other things. Today, actually, I didn't intend to talk about this. Actually, I intended to talk about some other characteristics of Shiva, but we spent time on identifying who is Lord Shiva. Okay, so we'll open to questions later, but let's look at some of the things that probably are a little lesser heavy. One is this verse, SB 12, 13, 16. It says about the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam, and over here it is said Nimna Ganam. Nimna means something that is lower down or depression, right? And Ganam means something that is going towards Jana. Okay, so our rivers, it is really representative of rivers flowing down to the sea, just as Ganga is the best of Devanam Achyutya. Lord Achyutya is supreme among deities, and Lord Shiva the greatest of Vaishnavas. Okay, so one is the one who is the destination, and the one is the one who is the you won't say practitioner, but the one who is doing the sadhana. So Lord Shambhu or Shiva is the greatest of Vaishnavas. So this is one important identity of Lord Shiva. In other words, if someone asks, what is Lord Shiva doing? Because all he's doing is destruction and creation, but what happens in between? 99.99% of the time is in between. Creation created Ling Sharira, and that's it. And then you have to wait for the entire creation to collapse. Once Mahavishnu breathes in and breathes out over 311 trillion years. So for the first microsecond, I don't know how long it takes for Lord Shiva to do the dalliance with Maya Devi. And at the very end, destruction, right? It might take some time. Sankarsana will start out, and this anger and things like that. But in between, what is Shambhu doing? Of course, one thing, important thing he's doing is blessing Ravana and all of the other asuras and demons. But other than that, what else is he doing essentially? Lord Shiva is meditating on Vishnu or the Supreme Sat. Because just because the rest of Sat doesn't interact with Maya, and because Shiva is brought over here, doesn't mean that Shiva is enjoying what is the material world's reality. It is his duty to do it, but his enjoyment, his pleasure, his ananda comes from, again, connecting back to the root or the source, which is always being in meditation on Vishnu. So that is why he's called the best or the greatest of Vaishnavas. He is the ideal. Okay, Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu. Okay, so now let's look at other characteristics. Now I found a good source of other characteristics of Lord Shiva, and for that, if we look at the 4th canto, over here the creation of the 4th canto in Bhagavatam talks a lot about Lord Shiva. Most of the Bhagavatam is focused on Krishna and Vishnu and his devotees, but there's definitely talk about Shiva. So over here, there's a big part over here where the story of Lord Shiva and his wife Sati, and how Daksha and 3 of them have this Leela going on, where ultimately Sati commits self-immolation, and then she's born again as Parvati, and due to her getting reborn as Parvati is where the marriage of Shiva and Parvati happens, and which is the called as Shivratri, is celebrated in India or world over, and that is what happened a few days back, which is the reason why we are talking about Lord Shiva today. Anyway, coming back here, so in these chapters over here, when Sati is mad with her dad Daksha, so basically, long story short, Daksha is the dad for Sati. He has many daughters, and he gets his daughters all married to different people because Daksha is a very high profile person and he's image conscious. And one of his daughters, Sati, gets married to Shiva for whatever reason. And Shiva, as we know, doesn't look awesome from worldly point of view, right? He has characteristics, and someone has to be intelligent to understand that he's really awesome. So because of that, Daksha's image consciousness takes a beating, and obviously is not very happy. Okay, so that just puts his default position as not being happy with Lord Shiva. One of the times Daksha is doing some yagya, and he walks in and he's in a very, very important position, the entire this material leg, right? And he's a son of Brahma, and Brahma is sitting there and Lord Shiva is sitting there, and Daksha comes in for this sacrifice, and then everyone gets up because Daksha is in a very important position. All demigods get up. Brahma doesn't get up because he's his dad, understandable. But Shiva doesn't get up because of a reason that only Shiva knows and understands. Daksha doesn't understand that. He gets really mad and he curses Lord Shiva. And because of that curse, there is enmity now, at least from Daksha's side to Shiva. Shiva is obviously having no enmity, he is a personality of Godhead. So now that position is set up over here. There was later on some other sacrifice that was being done for Daksha, by Daksha, and now Shiva and Sati get to know because people are flying in aeroplanes in Himalayas, in Kailash, where Lord Shiva and Sati are staying, and they can hear, oh wow, a wonderful event is happening in Daksha's place, which is Sati's dad, and Sati really wants to go. Like women want to go back to their, wives want to go back to their own home, right? Father's place or mother's place, right? So Maika is what it is called. So Sati is desperate to go back, even despite all the problems that Lord Shiva and Daksha have. But she is weak-hearted, which is obvious because that's her role, right? Nothing wrong or bad, right about it. That is reality. Okay, so Lord Shiva is not very obviously agreeing to that, and then Sati forces, she gets mad and then she goes. So when she goes over there, that's when she realizes that Daksha doesn't give her at all value, and then she feels very humiliated, although of course her mother and sisters kind of greet her, but that's not good enough, right? Because Daksha is the head, and as a dad he should at least be courteous, but he basically ignores her totally, and that is taken as a big offense by Sati, because it's not on her part, right? She's also understanding that it is because of her husband, prima facie because of her husband, and now she sides up with her husband, and then she gives a big lecture or a sermon out to the people who are or all the devotees or all people who are gathered over there in the process. And then the story goes on that after that she says that I'm not worthy of having this body which has come from my dad Daksha, therefore I'll burn myself, and she burns herself, and that is the story, right? So Sati quits her body. Anyway, so in this chapter when Sati is getting mad, no, not over here, yeah, before she quits her body, when she's getting mad at Daksha, and she's glorifying Lord Shiva. So in trying to understand Lord Shiva's position, we will take this set of stories, or these chapters over here from Bhagavatam to understand some specific attributes about Lord Shiva. So what I'll do is I've taken a list about them, and I will keep clicking them, and they will open up a certain verse over there in Bhagavatam, and they will understand what is it getting that is talked about. So let's me take this verse. So this is a verse from, of course, Canto 4th, first chapter, 49 to 52nd verse. And over here it is said Bhavaya, Bhava is Lord Shiva, right? So, and Ekam, so this is one daughter, this is one of the daughters, right? This is the verse where it is talked about how his daughters got married to different people. Some of them got married to some Pitraloka people, and here is some 13 daughters given away to Dharma, and then this is one of them got married to Lord Shiva. So over here there is a term that comes of Bhava Chide, who delivers the material entanglement. Now what does it mean? It means that Shiva can grant liberation. Now hold your thought, dear devotees. We have known Krishna to be granting liberation, and we know Vishnu Tattvas to be coming as incarnations and helping jivas go back. But here even Lord Shiva is being said. Of course, he's a personality of Godhead, so he belongs to the genre or the special class of entities who can do something great, no doubt about it, right? But we never thought or knew normally, we don't talk about it, saying that Lord Shiva can liberate, right? So for that purposes, I will give one quote or reference from So this is Brihad Bhagavatamrita. It is written by Srila Sanatana Goswami. Over here, let me see if I can get this going. I don't know if it shows or not shows. Prabhu, are you able to see the Acrobat?
I can see just like a toolbar.
Oh, you just see the toolbar? Okay. I am sorry. Let's see if I can change the view. Page 59, page 75. I think that is where it is. So let's go back and share that. Okay. I think I got it. Alright, so let's go to page 59 over here. So this is the section. So Ved Bhagavata is basically two parts. One part is where Lord Narad is trying to figure out who is getting the most mercy from Krishna. And he goes sequentially, and each entity that he thinks is great, he goes to them and says, oh, you must be the most merciful, your life is so good, and this and that. And then they say, no, 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 why don't you understand? I am no one, being a true Vaishnava. And they say, you this other entity, they are having much divine life and they are much more blessed by Krishna. And out of all of these entities, one is Lord Brahma. So Lord Brahma is someone that Narad Muni meets, and I think that is around page 59. Is this page 15, 59? Somewhere over here. Okay, so this is where I think he's talking about the Brahm Vimohan Leela, and Brahmaji is talking about, I was able to enter this dearmost land of Raja because I was able to enter blah blah blah. Sorry. And then he says, fearing that I would commit many more offenses if I stayed, I left Raja. So he left Raja after the Brahm Vimohan Leela, and he's now recommending Lord Brahma that, hey Narad Muni, please go to Shiva. Shiva is famous as the personal friend of Lord Vishnu. In this universe, I do not see anyone who is the object of Lord's mercy as Shiva. So he's promoting the case of Shiva, and so that Narad Muni can go and investigate him. Okay. And then he's giving some attributes. I mean, we don't have time to go through all of them, but like always intoxicated by the sweet nectar of Sri Krishna's lotus feet, Shiva has lost all interest in material goals, in supreme power and opulence, and in varieties of sense pleasure. Okay. So this is the section, and in this section, there's a place where it says, yeah, there you go. So look at the verse number 83. Lord Krishna is so kind to him that not only does he have the power to grant the most valuable liberation to demigods like myself, but even his wife has that power. So not only Lord Shiva, but also Goddess Parvati or Durga has the power to liberate, although it is not usually done. But if someone just wants liberation, mukti, and not bhakti, Lord Shiva can grant it. But if someone is looking for bhakti, then the way Lord Shiva, and they are praying to Lord Shiva, I mean, I was one of them, the way it works out is, it's I think even, I don't know which book has this, maybe Harinam Chintamani, no, not there. Somewhere it is written that Lord Shiva or Durga Devi will actually take them to Vishnu. So they are ultimately still giving liberation. It's not that they're directly giving liberation, they're indirectly giving liberation, but they are not stop you. Let's put it like this at the very least. So if someone is a devotee, if someone is not a devotee, then Durga and Shiva have the authority to give them liberation. And that is where I think that these entities or jivas will go to Sadashivlok and live with Lord Shiva itself. Okay. Versus if someone is a devotee of Lord Vishnu, then they'll go live in Vaikuntha. If specifically out of all the Vishnus, if you like Lord Ram, you go and live at Ayodhya Puri. If you like Narsimhadev, you live there, wherever Narsimhadev is Vaikuntha. But if you like Krishna and you serve him or worship him and you get liberated, you go and live with Krishna in Goloka. Right. Okay. So this is one very important thing, that Lord Shiva has the power to give liberation. Usually doesn't, or when he does, it's indirect, taking them to Vishnu. Sometimes it is direct. If there is like ghost or someone and they really are after Shiva, then it is possible. Okay, next thing. So let me stop sharing this part and share the browser and go back, and we will close this part and we keep this open. And now, So here is another verse over here. Bhave. Bhave means towards Lord Shiva. Shilavatam. So, I mean, this is the Sanskrit part over here, but basically the word is a Shila. Shila means a very gentle behavior, among the gentle. So, Shilavata means out of all the gentle. So, Lord Shiva is called very gentle. Now, if you do research on the term gentle, and I went to ChatGPT and I tried to figure it out, I didn't get many references for Shiva being gentle. Of course, he's gentle, I'm not denying that. I'm just saying that most of the other references that came out was he's very peaceful, he's very auspicious, he's very compassionate, he's very kind. But gentleness is a different aspect. There's a difference between the words. So there is not many references for this, but definitely since Bhagavatam is saying it, it shows that he is among the gentle. What Vidura inquired, why was Daksha, who was so affectionate to his daughter, envious of Lord Shiva, who is the best among the gentle? So he is not just gentle, he is gentle Shristhe. He is the best among all the gentle people. Okay, so that is one thing to note. This Shiva's characteristic. Okay, next one is verse over here. It is SB 422. It talks about Kastam Charachara Gurum. So what is Charachar? Is Sat Asat. Things, sorry, I mean not that. It is Thavar Jangam. So things that move and then don't move. I think, yeah, both animate and inanimate objects. Of all of them, Shiva is a guru, is a spiritual master. So in other words, he is the head of all gurus. Right? Like just we say Lord Nityananda, right? So Lord Shiva is like the Adi Guru, at least for in the material world, right? Nityananda doesn't normally exist here. He'll come back and keep going. But of the entities that exist here, Shiva is here permanently. He is the spiritual master of the entire world. Okay. So where do we get some more information about this? One is the Prachetas story. Right? Amongst all the entities that were born from Lord Brahma, who started creation, Prachetas is one class of created beings, and Lord Shiva actually helped give them information. So there is this where they went down to the west, and then they over there Lord Shiva came and then give them the knowledge about absolute truth. Okay, so this is where he definitely served as a guru. One more location where he served as a guru, not very popularly talked about in Vaishnava circles, but I think it is well known in South India, is Dakshinamurti. So Dakshinamurti is the default guru for anyone who doesn't have a guru. Okay, so this is one of Shiva's manifestations, where if someone doesn't have a guru, they can adopt Dakshinamurti as their guru, and then and why is it called Dakshinamurti? Because it is facing south, Dakshina, south facing. Okay, as you can see, all the saints are and his disciples all praying to him. Okay, so this is where Shiva is called Chara Guru. What was the terminology that we used? Chara Guru is the spiritual master for the entire material world. Okay, then other things over here was Nirvairam. He is without any enmity. That makes sense. I mean, he has no vested interest to go and exploit this world. So unless you kind of take something from someone, why would they care? So not having enmity is good. Most Vaishnavas have it. Of course, he's the best Vaishnava, so it's okay. Then another thing to note over here is Shanta Vigraham. What is Vigraha? Vigraha means aspect of personality. Shant and peaceful. Shant means peaceful. So he's obviously peaceful. So understandable. And then one more over here is Atma Rama. So what is Atma Ram? Atma means self, and Aram means taking pleasure. So someone who's satisfied themselves or taking pleasure in themselves, in their own soul or within themselves, they don't have to go hankering in the world. Of course, you'll expect that from Lord Shiva. But then if you remember, there's this verse, Atmaranam Chamunyo, right, which talks about different categories of Atmaram. And Shiva is amongst the best of all Atmarams. Why? Because Shiva is not just taking enjoyment in his own self. He is actually seeking his arama, his enjoyment from meditating on Vishnu. So he is actually going after the root of all roots. So therefore he is amongst the better ones, because it's the Atmaram verse says, I don't know if I'll bring up the verse. It says Atma Samunyo, Digrantha, all different varieties of Atmarams. So, and I think our Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said there are 64 or 61 kinds. Anyway, so those who take pleasure in the Atma or spirit self, especially to establish in the path of self-realization, though freed from all kinds of material, so none of them have material bondage, of course, right? Desire to render unalloyed devotional service unto Supreme Personality of Godhead. What does this mean? This means that the Lord possesses qualities that can attract anyone, even liberated souls, right? So Lord Shiva is also attracted by it. Even though he is the personality of God, he is attracted by a higher entity or higher personality of God, which is Krishna, right, or Vishnu. So out of all the Atmarams, he is a better one because he's just not enjoying Atma, he's also enjoying Param Atma, or rather personality of God, right? So that is a better aspect of ourselves. So there are four things over: Chachar Gurum, Nirvairam, Shant Vigraham, and Atmarama. All right, let me close this one. Let me look at some other thing, and this was the most gentle, right? Let's look at some other characteristics of Lord Shiva. Okay, so over here it is mentioned in this verse, it is Canto 4, 2:10. I am tu Lokpala Nam Yashogno Yashagno. What is that means? Spoiling the fame. So this is where Shiva has spoiled the name and fame of the governor of the universe, has polluted the path of gentle man because Shiva does not know what to. So this is where Daksha is trying to complain and he's going to curse him, and at that point of time I think this is happening. So Daksha wanted to impress upon the minds of all great sages that Shiva is not good or something like that, and the terminology that is used over here, and this is how acharyas will convert it. So he is saying bad things about Shiva. He's saying he is spoiling the fame of the righteous, the Brahmanical culture and things like that, right? Because he's putting all the crematorium ashes on his body and doesn't wear good clothes and doesn't look nice or whatever. It doesn't look very presentable. That's amongst various complaints. Daksha's complaint is that, right? So for example, he stated that Shiva is Yashogna, which means one who spoils name and fame. Now, this is where Acharya's great Sanskrit command comes into play. So this can be interpreted to mean that he was so famous that his fame killed all other fame. See how he turned them, how they turned a negative assertion into something very, very positive. Okay. Again, Daksh used the word Nirapatrapa, which can also mean in two senses. One means something who is stunted, he doesn't have a very active senses. But another one is one who is the minted of persons who have no shelter. So Shiva gives shelter to everyone. That's why he's not called Bhutanatha. Why? Because he gives shelter to people who are of lower grade, all the tamasic people. Okay. Then also is also called Asutosh. Asutosh means very quickly satisfied, and this is the reason all demons go to Lord Shiva to get mercy. All right, and so one other thing is auspiciousness. We know. Let's look at one more terminology. He is called Bhutarat, Lord of the Bhutas. Again, who are the Bhut? The ghost and those who are situated in the material mode of ignorance are called Bhutas. So Bhutrat refers to leader of the creatures who are lowest standard material modes of nature. That means Lord Shiva plays the role of actually being able to pass mercy to the most fallen creatures in this material world. So that is why it's called Bhutrat, or leader of all the fallen entities. Okay. Okay. One more. Okay. Na yasya loke asti. In this planet or in this world not exist ati shayanaha. Shayana, Atishayanaha, rival, enmity, enemy. She doesn't have any enemies. We talked about it, but here is a term, that a verse that clearly says that Shiva is the most beloved of all entities. He has no rivals. Of course, that's the reason is because he's not competing with anyone. Okay. Then okay. Priya Atmanha. He is the most beloved. No one is very dear to him, and no one is his enemy. I think somewhere over now. Okay. Now, one more activity or attribute about Lord Shiva is this one. And we are learning all of these because since he's the best Vaishnava, if we can understand why he's the best Vaishnava, what is the attributes that he has, then we can try to emulate or imbibe some of them to ourselves succeed, or at least try to progress the right path. So it is, all of these are very, very important to us. So here it is, in this verse it says, third line, Gurams cha falgun bahuli karishnavo. So what it means is, let's look at the translation. Qualities small, falgu small, bahuli greatly, karishnavaha magnifies. So if someone has some good qualities, of course, if someone has bad qualities, he'll never say, he'll not do any complaint. But someone has even small qualities which are good, he will greatly magnify them. I remember one time what happened is, my own Guru Maharaj, his own is Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, came to ISV, and over there, I think it was Gandharvika Mataji, she ended her Leela earlier, and so she was kind of trying to glorify him and said that wherever you go, you're always able to attend the Mangal Aarti, it doesn't matter what time you sleep or something like that. And his immediate response was this exactly: oh, Vaishnavas, they over magnify or over exaggerate things. And I was just wondering how he was ready with an answer right away. So obviously he was playing the other role, but this is a Vaishnava characteristics, that they kind of always glorify, and to be able to glorify, they focus on the positive aspects and do it. So Lord Shiva is an expert at that. Okay, all right, we're running short of time. I think we have 16-18 more minutes, Ashramada Prabhu, or?
Yes, Prabhu, 18 minutes. Yeah.
Okay, we'll try to hurry through some of them. All right. Okay, so now this is a very cool one. I don't know if it was the. Okay, yeah, this one, the 14th verse in SB 4.4. Yad dui aksharam nam geriritam nadam. So dui aksharam, two letters, two syllable name. So Lord Shiva's name is two syllable based. What are it is made up of? She and Va. So my dear father Sati is saying, where she's throwing her anger at Daksha, you are committing the greatest offense by envying Lord Shiva, whose very name, consisting of two syllables, Shi and Va, purifies one of all sinful activities. So that means these syllables are very unique, and they combinedly make up a very good combination. So not only Shiva, but Shiva's name is also very, very powerful. In fact, there probably is no difference between them because of personalities of God. That is the way it works. Okay, now Shiva means Mangal, auspicious. So someone who's chanting Shiva, 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 they are chanting things which are auspicious, and we become what we meditate on. And therefore, Shiva, by chanting Lord Shiva's name, people get into very auspicious material life. Okay, and what is the best auspiciousness? Auspicious life begins from the point of spiritual identification. Auspicious does not mean getting a lot of wealth or something like that. Of course, people will call that, but that's not what, that's a karmi way of understanding. From a spiritual point of view, once we understand who am I, that is what really is auspicious or mangalam. So Lord Shiva is one of the best possible ways. His name helps do that through these two syllables. And talking of which, sorry, I cannot control myself, but we know this famous verse, Tunde Tandavini Ratim Vitanute Tundavali Labde. I do not, this is about Krishna's name. And then just like Krishna, Shiva's name is auspicious and helps you understand your spiritual identification, who am I? Self-realization. Krishna's name goes a step more. What it says is, I do not know how much nectar the two syllables Krishna have produced. When the holy name of Krishna is chanted, it appears to dance within the mouth. We then desire many, many mouths. When that name enters the holes of the ears, we desire many millions of ears. And when the holy name dances in the courtyard of the heart, it conquers the activities of the mind, and therefore all the senses become inert. So, one, I would say, if I have to differentiate between the two, I should not, but Shiva's name is purifying, auspicious. It helps one realize the tattva. Krishna's name, super auspicious. It helps actually forget your tattva. It helps forget the non-tattva, sat and asat. It produces rasa. So if someone wants to champion tattva, Shiva's name is it. Someone wants to champion rasa, Krishna's name will get you there. Both personality of Godhead, both names are astoundingly good, but here is where Krishna is Krishna. Alright, let's continue on. What other characteristics or attributes that we can talk about? Pavitra Kirtim, whose fame is pure. So some people are infamous, right? Characteristic of the material world. Shiva's even fame is very pure. He is pure, his fame is also pure. Alright. Vishwa Bandhave, unto the friend of all living entities within the three worlds. So Shiva is called as someone who is the friend of all living entity. And why is he called like that? Okay, so this is what it is. There are four principles of material life: dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. And Lord Shiva is a friend of both the ordinary man and the man who is elevated in spiritual knowledge. So, transcendentalist, karmis, both. Thus, it was not good for Daksha to create enmity. Even Vaishnavas above the ordinary elevated also worship Lord Shiva as the greatest Vaishnava. Thus, he is the friend of everyone: the common man, the elevated man, and the devotees of the Lord. So, no one should disrespect or create enmity towards Lord Shiva. So, this was the expansion of term Vishwa Bandhave. Another good term, Lord Shiva is called very bad Adhishwara. Where does this come? Vidya Tapa Yogo Patham Astitam Tam Adhishwaram. So what does Adhishwaram mean? Master of the senses. So Shiva is called Adhishwara. Ishvara means controller, we know that, and Adhishwara means particularly controller of the senses. Generally, our materially contaminated senses have to engage in sensory gratificatory activities, but when a person is elevated by wisdom and austerity, the senses then become purified and they become engaged in the service of Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Shiva is the emblem of such perfection, and therefore in the scripture it is said, Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu. Lord Shiva is the best of Vaishnavas. Okay. So Lord Shiva, by his actions within his material world, teaches all conditioned souls how to engage in devotional service 24 hours a day. Therefore, he is described as Lok Mangala. So we learn two terms. One is Adhishwara, he is control of his senses, which is a big thing for us, right? And Lok Mangala, good fortune personified for all conditioned souls. Another term. I think he's a friend of all the whole world. Yeah, Vishwasrohadam. He's a friend of the whole world. We talked about this. Okay. Another one was, he is auspicious for everyone because of his vatsalya nature. He is out of full affection. So he's playing like a good father. Anyway, he is a father, as we talked about earlier. He helps create the yoni, the ling yoni, the causal body for all entities in the material world. So he has anyway vatsalya or parent love or attraction or affection towards all the jivas who are rotting in this world, and he is auspicious for everyone because he helps them realize who they really are. Isham Vishwasya. He is a controller of the entire material manifestation. So how is he a controller? We have known Shiva to control. I know that he will control the entire material combination. Then he is the combination father and mother of the cosmic manifestation. We know Yoni Vijayo. He is giving the Linga Yoni. And the Supreme Brahman beyond the cosmic manifestation as well. So he is anyway beyond. So that one we know. Okay. So I think as we're getting over time, so we'll do this last one, and I think we will end after that. At least my part will be done. He's one of his terms describing him is called Midhustama. What does Midhustama mean? The best of the benedictors. Okay. One. So my dear, Maitre is talking about it. My dear Vidura, all the personalities present were very much satisfied in heart and soul upon hearing the words of Lord Shiva, who is best among the Benedictors. So Srila Prabhupada writes about it in the purport. In this verse, Lord Shiva is described as Midushtama, the best of Benedictors. He is also as Asutosha, quickly satisfied, quickly very angered. It is said in Bhagavad Gita that less intelligent persons go to the demigods. In this connection, people generally go to Lord Shiva because quickly satisfies and gives benedictions, all Ashirvad, to his devotees without consideration. He is called Midushtama, or the best of benedictors. Materialistic persons are always anxious to get material profit, but they are not serious about spiritual profit. Sometimes, of course, it so happens that Lord Shiva becomes the best benefactor of spiritual life, and there's a story over here. So let's talk about a story. Basically, there's a poor Brahman. He went to Lord Shiva for benediction. Lord Shiva said, "Go to Sanatana Goswami." So that person went to Lord Sanatana Goswami and said, "Oh, I've been informed by Lord Shiva, I should get some benediction from you." Sanatana Goswami had a Midas touch stone. What does the touch stone will do? It will convert metal into gold. So, and he kept it in the garbage area. So then this poor Brahman who went there, he got that touch stone very happy, and he came back and he knew he could get as much gold as possible. But there's Paramatma in his heart. So Paramatma gave him one thought. So he's now thinking. After he left Sadhana, he thought, if a touchstone is the best benediction, he's looking for the best, by the way, right? Not just benediction. Why has Sanatana Goswami kept it in the garbage? So therefore he came back to Sanatana Goswami and asked, "Sir, if this is the best benediction, why did you keep it with the garbage?" Sanatana Goswami then informed him, "Actually, this is not the best benediction, but are you prepared to take the best benediction from me?" The Brahmana said, "Yes, sir. Lord Shiva sent me to get the best thing from you, best benediction." Then Sanatana Goswami asked him to throw the touchstone in the water and come back. The poor Brahmana did so, and when he returned, Sanatana Goswami initiated him with the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki Jai. Thus, by the benediction of Lord Shiva, the Brahmana got the association of the best devotee of Lord Krishna and was initiated in the Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Alright, I think we're getting over time, so I think Lord Shiva's qualities are endless. Could probably stop over here. We have a few minutes left. I don't know if there are any questions, any reflections. We can take them. Any?
This way, I have one more question.
Please go ahead.
So the way you have described from Bhagavatam, different concept, being from the material world, can we say that if somebody by knowingly or unknowingly, like not, if they worship Lord Shiva, he will take them to the ultimate goal to worship or um, towards Krishna?
Good question. Two things happen simultaneously, right? One is we all have our free will. Okay, so that is always there. Second thing which also happens simultaneously is there is a God, a creator, a preserver, a destroyer, someone who really owns us, of whom we are separated parts. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, right? Bhinna Prakriti. So we are part of him. He is our parent. Now, whether he manifests as Shiva or Vishnu or at different points of time in different places, a different thing. But let's call all of that entity as God. So there is a natural position for this so-called God to be a parent for this Jiva who is powerless. So that affection will keep showing its effect at various points of time, regardless of how nasty or how ridiculous the Jiva's disposition is. So will Shiva take back? Yeah, Shiva will keep giving a tap. Jiva may keep being obstinate or maybe rude or maybe not caring about so-called God, that is in form of Shiva or some other entity, any of the spiritual entities. But the important thing is they keep giving a tap, and there's also free will. Both things run together in conjunction. If you're thinking that Shiva is going to forcibly carry someone and dump it to Krishna, no, that will not happen. If you're thinking that the Jiva will automatically go at one shot to Krishna, that also will not happen. But if they pray to Shiva, yes, one thing is guaranteed, that their sufferings will start diminishing to a great extent in this world, provided they keep their free will aligned with spirituality. Most people, even when they are praying to Shiva or Krishna, their free will keeps coming out saying, "Oh, but you know what? If I could just get a good wife and maybe a Rolls Royce, and but I'm going to keep praying to Shiva." That is the problem part. If their desires are dovetailed, as Prabhupada said, right? Yukta Vairagya. If you basically align yourself with what we are expected to do, then yes, why not? Shiva will 100% take, and it is said that if you are a devotee of Krishna, and if you are praying to Devi, Devi will take you to Krishna. So yes, absolutely, Shiva will take you to Krishna if you have a desire to do the best and the better thing. Like this Brahmana, right? He was giving some benediction. He was giving a stone so he could convert things into gold. His life became beautiful. He was poor, everything good, but he was looking for the best benediction, not benediction. See, that best is the key part. That is his free will. Because he wanted best, he was more inquisitive. Therefore, he doubted what was given to him. He started questioning it, and therefore he went for the best. If he had not used his free will, then even though Lord Shiva sent him the right person, and the right person was trying to figure out, Sanatana Goswami, does he deserve A or does he deserve a better A? Sanatana Goswami did not force him, but his own inquisitiveness goes. So basically, it's a two-handed handshake. Both sides have to agree. Yes,
Agree.
Lord Shiva will take, but the Jiva also has to try. Let's put it like this. Okay.
Yes, Guruji.
Okay. I think we can start winding up. Ashray Madhav Das Prabhuji.
Thank you, Guruji.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for asking the question. Really appreciate it.
Yes. Hare Krishna. Yeah, I
Hare
just now checked the online questions. I didn't see anything. Online. Manish Prabhu asked a bunch of good questions there. I was just thinking about that just now what you're saying, right? We have Srimad Bhagavatam, two incidents, right? One is Prachetas. Their desire was to meet Lord Narayan, right? And then Lord Shiva became the spiritual master. Same thing with the gopis. They wanted Krishna as their husband, and they worshipped Katayani, which is goddess Durga. So, so just to kind of
Yes, Prabhu.
corroborate
Good.
two
Yeah,
more
good.
two more examples.
Good, Prabhu. Thank you.
You
Thank you.
know,
Yeah, good ones.
so it all depends on the desire, and that's where the free will comes into picture. Yeah, perfect answer to me. Thank you. Yeah, Lord Shiva is endless, just like Lord Krishna, Lord Shiva is endless, and very confusing actually. That is what Daksha got confused. Like, how can such an elevated soul has so many
But he's really
abominable
clothless,
relationships on his body?
houseless. It is said
Yeah,
at one place, his clothes are the 10 directions, which means
yeah,
basically he's not clothing.
yeah,
Right,
yeah.
sir?
So so people can, and that is what even our acharyas say, that if someone is a very elevated Vaishnava, it is good to pray him from very far, because if we start going so close to him, we will start finding faults. Because we are conditioned so.
Or do some offenses.
Yeah, we do commit some offenses. So be very careful. So thank you, Prabhu, thank you. Excellent lecture. So we can, 2 minutes left, but we can close.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Prabhu. Thank you for playing the host. And thanks for everyone else who watched or gives the blessings. ISV ki jai. Yeah. Vanchakam Patu Pasidhu Vivcha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Vijay Damodar Prabhu ki jai.
Yeah.
Srila Prabhupada Srila Prabhu ki jai.
Gaur Bhaktavandra ki jai.
Yeah.
Srila
Thank you,
Prabhupada.
devotees, for taking time from your busy lives and joining the Wednesday online only class. And we'll meet again
See you at the temple.
next Wednesday and Saturday morning and Sunday evening. Please do come to the temple. We have programs. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.